welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market, Season 5. Here we are with this lovely specimen here. Now, some of y'all are looking at it going, I know exactly what that is, and I understand how you feel. Well, let me tell you, it has been one heck of a journey to get this one in an episode, let alone in the garden. But here we are. Now, the scientific name for this specific plant is Lupinus polyphyllus. Its specific variety is the staircase mix, and it's commonly known as a lupine. Now, lupines are in the Fabaceae family, which is the pea family, which also means they fix nitrogen. Cha-chow. Two for the price of one. I mean, look at those flowers plus nitrogen. Mmm. Now, the name lupinus comes from the word lupus, which means wolf, and there's a whole backstory behind that. I'll explain in a minute. Polyphyllus is two words. Poly meaning many, phylus meaning leaves. Many-leaved, which actually I think refers to the leaflets. In this case, though, this plant has a bunch of nicknames that are about to be explained in a moment. Anyway, this plant is native to Western North America. It's a native. Oh, yes. About time we got some natives up in here. But yeah, we got some, it's a native. In fact, a lot of lupines that we know and love are actually native to the United States and the North America. So, kids, plant more lupines. Your garden will thank you. But there's a catch, and I'll get to that also in a moment. I know I'm like totally putting a lamp on it, but whatever. This plant is hardy from USDA zones 4 through 9. It is considered a herbaceous perennial. Its soil pH preference is 6 to 8, 6 to 8.0, and it does not like rich, heavy soils. Now, here's a proviso. I was going to get to that earlier where it prefers soils that drain reasonably quickly but can retain some moisture. However, doping the soil with lots of manure and or compost and or organic matter actually hurts this plant. It does not like rich garden soils, and it doesn't like clayey soils either. And that's because it fixes its own nitrogen and therefore it doesn't need its own nutrient, but it also has negative health effects if you grow it in rich soil. This plain potting soil that it's in that has not been spiked with anything should be sufficient for this plant until I decide where to put it in the ground. But anyway, its exposure is full sun. Flat out. All references say, yeah, put it out in the sun. And you know what? Let's go. Go time. Laser southern sun and all that. Its height can be 26 to 36 inches. However, I have found notations that indicate that these plants can reach 4.4 foot, 4.9 feet. So that would be something like 4 foot 9 inches, I'm guessing, something like that. When you put the 0.9, it just throws it off. But anyway, its width could be 16 to 18 inches. Now, I'm assuming that it can actually get bigger than that. That was an estimated width because there was no clear number on width. That 4.9 throws a little question into exactly huge it might get. Now, the AKAs are going to give you a warning on why I doubted that. Large leaf lupine, big leaf lupine, many leaf lupine, blue pod lupine, garden lupin, the third. Dang it, I did it again, didn't I? Anyway, most of them are talking about how big the leaves are, and look at them. I mean, these are how it was when I bought it. I only bought it about a week ago because I was like, oh, they're in stock and nobody's pillaged them. Let's go. Now, I could have grown this from seed, but it takes a year plus to get them to any size. If you've ever tried to grow the Russell hybrids, you know my pain. You were talking like a year or two to get them to do anything. This one was good to go now, and I get to talk about it to you, so that's a win for everybody. Now, about those rich soils. You see, the problem with rich soils is that crown contact with manure or rich organic matter can cause crown rot, which can kill the plant, which is why you want to keep the soil on the sort of bland side, for the sake of keeping a happy lupine. This plant is also, as pollinator, preferred by bumblebees and a number of moths, some of which come at night, some of which come in during the day, which is a win-win. More pollinators are always a good thing. Lupines are in the pea family, so you know they produce nectar, so it's a win-win-win for everybody. Now, here's the interesting thing about the name lupine, because that's a funny thing. It means wolf. hungry like the wolf? Sorta. You see, because lupines can fix nitrogen, they can grow where other plants can't. So, way back in the day when botanists and whatnot were scouring what would become later the United States and North America and Canada, they noticed lupines can grow where other plants can't. So it was once thought the plants were predatory like wolves, that they had killed off their opposition in some kind of way. There's also another theory, and it's not proven, people thought this at one point. They thought that lupines somehow killed everything around them, not necessarily predatorily, but they were bad for everything. When in reality, these plants fix nitrogen and could grow where nothing else could really compete with them because other non nitrogen fixing plants were basically just sucking eggs, which is kind of cool. But henceforth, they said this plant, in that second theory, this plant wolfed down all the nutrients and that's what killed all the other plants. Hungry like the wolf. I see, like I found. Anyway, I'm not even going to start quoting lyrics, but you get the joke. Anyway, so that's the theory, predatory like a wolf. Of course, back then they didn't understand the nuances of how wolves operate, and they assumed wolves were inherently a bad thing, and yeah, that's how these things continue. Modern mythology. But anyway, in Portugal at one point, if not to this very day, it is used to choke out weeds because it can outgrow them simply on the basis of the fact that it can fix its own nitrogen. Legumes are incredibly versatile species, and they used to be called Leguminaceae, but now they're Fabaceae. That's the scientific name. Again, putting that out there. Now, the downside. The seeds most likely are toxic, so I wouldn't eat them. I don't know about the flowers or the foliage, but I do know this one thing. The one weakness of lupines, aside from excessively fertile soils, is slugs. You all know slugs. Those land mollusks. Basically snails, homeless snails. Well, they'll eat up they'll eat up all the foliage. They'll strip a lupine bare, and my original attempts to grow lupines further out on the test garden property were failures because of slugs. I could not put out enough beer traps to stop them. In this case, it's potted, and it's eventually going to go to a location where chances are I have less of that problem. But for the meanwhile, it looks fabulous here, and I'm monitoring it as necessary. So, that is Lupinus polyphyllus, or large-leaf lupine in a nutshell, for you. Now, if you have any comments about lupines, have you grown them? Have you any tricks, tips, the seeds? Please put them in the comment section. I'd love to have a discussion with you all about this. If you like this video, please hit like. Please subscribe. We're trying to hit 500. The Forge blog is up and running. And as always, folks, keep it growing. Thanks for watching. I appreciate everything.